Mr. Chairman, members of the military who become federal civilian employees upon the completion of their military service may voluntarily elect to pay a military service deposit. This deposit is paid into the pension fund for federal employees. Payment of a deposit allows time in the military to be counted toward pension eligibility. It also allows an individual to increase the amount of his or her pension upon retirement by counting creditable military service in the annuity calculation. If an individual chooses to pay a military service deposit, the individual must do so prior to retirement from federal civilian service. The individual must also pay the deposit within 2 years of starting civilian service if he or she wishes to avoid paying interest on a deposit. On the third anniversary of a civilian employment, interest will accrue annually until the deposit is paid in full. Representative Buddy Carter, a former member of this committee, had a constituent who actually had to pay a military service deposit. The constituent was told by his employing agency prior to retiring that his military service deposit had been paid in full. Upon retirement, however, the Office of Personnel Management rejected his military service department on his retirement application because his employing agency incorrectly calculated the amount he initially owed. The constituent was given the opportunity to pay the correct amount. However, because his military service deposit was roughly 13 years earlier, the constituent now owed nearly $30,000 in interest, and after appealing the ruling, fortunately the constituent in this case was able to get the employing agency to pay the interest that had accrued as a result of the agency's mistake. This particular constituent was fortunate, however, that his agency was able to do so. In nearly an identical case from 1996, the GAO found the Department of Energy could not make a similar payment to cover the accrued interest, despite the fact that it was the agency's mistake in the first place. GOA stated that the Department of Energy has not pointed to any specific authorization for it to pay the interest due to agency error, and we are not aware of any. Accordingly, the appropriated funds of DOE are not available to remedy the consequences of this erroneous calculation. So in this case, the employee was required to pay the full amount of the deposit plus accrued interest to receive retirement credit for his military service. This bill that we are looking at, H.R. 4431, addresses this problem by expressly authorizing all agencies to pay any interest accrued on military service deposits as a result of agency administrative errors. We want to make sure that federal workers with prior military service who follow the rules are not unfairly penalized. And so I, Mr. Chairman, want to commend my friend from Georgia for introducing this important legislation. And I hope and urge all my colleagues will join me in supporting this bill. I yield back.